shutting down his email account, which is apparently what they did, yes and no. And these are why courts are created and lawyers are created to mediate this out. I think he should have used his brain and not compared it to a massacre. And I also think that the university probably should have gone to him first and said, hey, dude, not very smart. Because there's a difference in saying, hey, you shouldn't do this, and then just immediately shutting off somebody's account. Discretion. Discretion is the better part of value here. Now, in the past, McGetton has said that he doesn't threaten, he doesn't harass people, he's more of a peaceful protest kind of person. That might be true. But it could be seen that the use of electronic communications to intimidate, threaten, harass other individuals, or to interfere with the activity of others to conduct university business, yeah, I can see why the university would think that. So, the only comment that I would say here about this, to kind of sum this up before we go to break, is people have the right to free speech, but they should use discretion. And individual organizations, and I know CSU is a public school, and we can get into arguments about public education versus private education at a different time. But I really think that the university has the right to say to this guy, hey, you shouldn't have done that. And McGetton has the right to say what he said. He's just got to be smart about it. But we'll be back right after this. This is Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Steve Long of Liberty Unfiltered. If you're tired of hearing the same Republican and Democrat banter from the mainstream media, join me on Wednesday nights at 9, 8 Central as I crawl out of the cesspool of partisan politics and bring the fight for freedom against the advocates of big government to the masses right here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Of people's income do you, Michael Moore, want the government to confiscate?
Probably twice what we're paying right now.
It's not envy, it's war.
Where's the rage? Where's the uprising?
Storm the doors of the New York Stock Exchange.
It is a class war.
Storm the doors of the New York Stock Exchange.
If the wealthy paid their fair share. For a documentary filmmaker, I do really well. I'm very blessed.
And the rich thought poverty was bad.
I do well.
They get rid of it.
What pure? There's nothing pure about capitalism.
And they know what's coming on Wall Street.
We're seeing the end of capitalism. And I say good riddance.
He is one of my favorite capitalists. Yeah, I want to give him a hug.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
This is Alan Bordius of VLR's Their Finest Hour and the Roundtable of Extreme Liberty. And now back to Mr. Forehead himself, Taylor Millard, on the Saturday Night Cigar Lounge. Keep listening, or you'll be the latest on Taylor's Grudge List.
And we are back here on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge, here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. I'm your host, Taylor Millard. I love it when the Spreaker console decides to have issues, and there are then what said. And that was me doing that, by the way. That wasn't the Spreaker console screwing up. Just before people think that that's what it was. So, let's talk about more outrage and free speech. Let's talk more about free speech for a little bit longer, and then we'll get into the outrage of that Al Sharpton is showing, and other people are showing over the Academy Awards. And I really don't care about the Academy Awards. Really? If a movie that I saw that I really liked was nominated, yeah, I'll hope it wins, but I don't watch the ceremony. I don't care to watch the ceremony. That's not my thing. It's not. But we'll get into that quote-unquote controversy in just a little bit. The reason why I've been kind of harping on free speech and the importance of free speech and the importance of the government to not infringe on free speech from the France 24, which is the English-speaking French magazine, TV station, news outlet. Turkish prosecutors are seeking a jail term of up to 5 years for a prominent female journalist arrested over a tweet suggesting a cover-up in a corruption scandal that shook the government, media reported on Saturday. Sedef Kabas, a broadcast journalist and anchorwoman, has been charged with targeting public servants tasked with fighting against terrorism, the Dogan news agency reported. What the indictment says is, as understanding from the context of the tweet, it's clear without any doubt that Kabas threatened the plaintiff and tried to discredit him. Now, this is what she said. This is the horrific tweet that she said. Do not forget the name of the prosecutor who dismissed the December 17th case. And she included the name and picture of the prosecutor. Oh my goodness gravy. Oh my goodness gravy. That is trying to threaten prosecutors. Come on. Come on. No, that's not. This is why free speech is so important. This is why the U.S., as what's supposed to be the prime defender of free speech, the U.S. government being the prime defender of free speech, and the U.S. culture. This is why the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. That's why the First Amendment was created. And this is why the U.S. is still, even though it's got its warts, and plenty of them, it's still the beacon of freedom and liberty, or it's supposed to be the beacon of freedom and liberty. And honestly, this is why I get a little nervous when there are journalists in the U.S. who get held in contempt of court, or when the government decides to hack the AP, or the government decides to charge a journalist in this sort of case. In cases that can be connected or kind of start getting into it. When this sort of situation happens. For those wondering who Judith Miller is, she is a former New York Times journalist who refused to reveal who her source was to the grand jury investigating a leak naming Valerie Plame a CIA officer. And she never wrote about Plame. This is according to the Wikipedia kind of roundup of this. She never wrote about Plame, but she may have had evidence relevant to the leak investigation. And it turned out her source was Richard Armitage, apparently. And one of the things that the Washington Post reported in 2005 was Miller could face criminal contempt charges, and that was an issue. That was an issue in the situation. Now, let's look at James Rosen. Let's look at the James Rosen situation. The Justice Department was labeled Rosen a criminal co-conspirator over his investigation or tracking his visits to the State Department, and then also looked at phone traces, that sort of thing. This is what we're fighting against, folks. And this is the problem when you pass bad laws. This is the problem when you pass bad laws. Because the Rosen case is tied to the Espionage Act of 1917. Which was intended to prohibit interference with military operations or recruitment